We are coming to today's alumni talks, and our first speaker is Carolina Yeho. And if I remember correctly, Carol, we met each other when you and I did a workshop at the ISEC Germany national conference in Haus Neuland in the north of Germany, and did a trip in the car to and back together. I had a lot of time to talk about our workshop, but talk about ISEC, life, and God knows what else. And I'm very happy to have you here to connect with you as well again, and for you to tell us a little bit more about applying and interviewing virtually, and how we or how ISECers, alumni, young, old, can do that in the current time. So with no further ado, Carolina, the virtual stage is yours.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to stop your screen, yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
It asks in Zoom, so I wanted to also be a bit polite over Zoom. Yes, that's right, Chris. I remembered quite with a lot of pleasure that we actually connected over the conference. It was my first time to Bielefeld, this area in Germany, unless we are doing training, so I probably will not have the experience to go to. And I've been an ISEC alumni for 20 years, more or less. I'm from Singapore originally, but I've left Singapore 16 years back. And ISEC is an important part of my life, you know, whether it is planning my career, going to a new country, moving, going for holidays even. I've always had this privilege to work with the ISEC networks. But I'll share a bit more shortly. So today, the topic of discussion, and feel free to add any questions to the chat group, is about some strategies that I can share from my experience and also from the experiences of working with various companies, of how we could structure better when we apply an interview. And especially in these times, most of these processes are done virtual or hybrid format. Right. So before we start, I always do a bit of, let's say, icebreaker. This is an easy one. And if you have your chat, I think most of you probably are already experts at Zoom. So if you have in your chat, would you like to share what are some of the things that you are, it can be for work, can be for personal time, irrationally passionate about? So I'm going to start off. I'm irrationally passionate about scuba diving, and I haven't done it for a while. Feel free to put in the chat box. If you don't see the chat box, it's usually in the bottom panel. Skiing, cool. Paragliding. It doesn't need to be sports, okay? It just started with sports. International travel. I think most of us in this group love the travel, right? Snowboarding, drawing. Nice. So we have a very diverse pool of talents here in different area, yeah? Petra, very nice. You have scuba diving, singing, dancing, different cultures. Right, so kite surfing and a few more, and then connecting to others at human level. So lots of sports, lots of travel part. I guess that's also part of the commonality of being an ISECer, that all this tends to bond us together as well. So this is a good question, not only for this part of the workshop, but I think later on when we go into the different breakout rooms, we can also continue finding out and learning about each other. And why is this important, right? Feel free to continue to add in so that, you know, we take the chance to say, hey, you know, I know someone who loves skydiving. Let's talk to that person later on. Yeah, it's a good way to build that bond. So why is this important in the career part of the question? I'm going to come to that later on. But first, let me share and introduce a bit more about myself and what I've been doing and what I'm doing right now. So my whole background experience is in the world of talent management, global talent management and human resources. I started business. Somehow through Isaac, I jumped into a field that I've never studied for until later on in my career. For those, maybe the lady in Indonesia, we might be even connected at some point. I was in Isaac in 2000 and 2004. And then I went to Belgium, which was my first traineeship experience for a global coordinator role. And since then, I never made the trip back home, despite my parents asking very frequently. So it's 16 years away ago, and then 8 years ago we moved to Germany, and now located in Frankfurt, and that's where I had the opportunity to meet Chris as well. So currently, I moved from some years back the background in working with the various multinational companies. To starting my own business and my own digital platform. So And Ahead, as you see on some of the logos and on my headings, is a platform that helps individuals in the mid-career relaunch. We also support those who are starting their careers, but predominantly are those in the mid-career transitions. And I'm very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about people. I'm very passionate about technology. So whatever I do, I try to fit all this and find an intersection and look into projects or whether is this something that can take me forward. I've added also my LinkedIn profile. So anyone who wants to connect, please let me know. So this is, I guess, kind of a summary of why we are today here speaking. And many of the application and interview processes have gone virtual. And it's not only going virtual like what we're doing now in Zoom, but there are a lot of application process that wants you to talk to, as we call it, robot, but basically asks you to record a video, especially with the large multinational technology companies. And they basically said, okay, record your video. We are going to take it to a provider that's going to analyze the language, analyze the different words, keywords that you have, and then decide if you go into the next shortlist. This is done also because a company like Amazon, for each position, they have 6,000 applicants, right? So they wanted to use and leverage the use of technology to support them in their first filter process. But I think that is still not yet the predominant way of how companies recruit, at least in Germany that I see. Maybe you can also share your experiences later on for different parts of the world or different parts of the country, or different parts of Europe, I meant. And then we can also exchange, because here in this group, we are also a group of collective intelligence, right? So leveraging that, we can see how the different companies also look into recruitment. Sometimes we have distractions during interview process or in a workshop like that, so we need to prepare a bit, but that's part of the process. So to move forward, I would like to introduce a very simple methodology. I use it a lot, so some of you might have come to our previous forums and workshops, so this will be quite familiar. Is, how can we use the very basic 3 C's to help us in the interview process? If the interview process is virtual, some parts of the 3 C's are even more important. So the first C is, we need to understand where we want to head towards. It's like planning a trip, right? For someone going for trekking, mountaineering, you need to know kind of where your next steps could look like. It doesn't need to be perfect, but there needs to be a clarification process. And then the next part is, once you have that clarity, I think we need to also look into how do we create a brand and a plan around it. So if you know that you're going to climb the highest mountain in the world, you need to put in all the different equipment, drinks, water. For the career, it's the same. What do you need to prepare in terms of branding, in terms of your whole networks, in terms of research to get to that goal that you have in mind. And the third C is connect. Because a large part, I think the average percentage I've seen is 70% of jobs are found via referrals. So in many cases, when you see the jobs on the job portal, they are already being filled by or having someone in mind, but because of certain legal requirements or different needs for having maybe a couple of more candidates, then the companies open it up also to the public. but in the end, the selection processes might be someone they already know, either internally or externally. Yeah, so feel free to ask, to put also more questions as we speak, okay? So the first C, and this is where we come in with the usage of our previous question of what are we irrationally passionate about, is the clarity part of the process, right? What do we know about ourselves? And this process has needs a lot of introspection and retrospection. So how many here, if you put in the chat box, have seen or heard about the Ikigai? I'm pretty confident that many have. So the chats are coming. Right, so Chris, Bogdan, Daniela, so quite a few of you, yeah? And I already see a question from, a comment from Irina. Let's touch on that later on. It is quite eerie with regards to interviewing virtually to no one, yeah. So not that many yeses, or not many people has looked through it, but the reason, I mean, there are many ways of how we can get clarity, right? This is just one small one, but it's one that is so simple that anyone can use it. Many of the people that the participants that we work with, either in a workshop or one-to-one, etc., who uses this, they even take it back and use it with their family, either as a spouse or kids, etc. Right? But the most basic context or concept is really how do we find the intersection of 4 different questions that can be then narrowed down into sub-questions. So Ikigai basically is a concept that we didn't create it, but it's you can even find a book about it. But it basically means what makes us jump out of bed every morning, right? So some of you have answered the question, you know, you want to do skiing, you want to do skydiving. These are some of the things, but also professionally, what are some of the things that makes, you know, us curious and gets our heart pumping because we are working on it. So usually we would look from the left, because, you know, what you are good at is basically usually from experiences, right? Most of us, if we work for 10,000 hours at something or studied it, you would be able to kind of be better, the top 1% of the population who is great at, let's say in my case, not really, but kind of scuba diving, for instance, or in my case of talent management, because I've worked at it for 10 years, right? So think about what are yours. And then the next part is, you know, what are we passionate about, but maybe that we're not good at. So in my case, for example, I'm passionate about learning languages, but my German is only at the intermediate level, and I need to get there. When it comes to work, for example, I'm passionate about technology, but you know, I don't have a tech background, and this is one of the frequent questions that people have. If I don't have a tech background and I want to go in areas related to technology, what does that look like? And then the third question is, what impact do we want to create? If you are part of the Isaac community, I think this is a question that are fairly easy, because many of us have worked on topics that we are, you know, passionate about. And then the last part is really the finances. You know, what can we be paid for? So I won't go into in-depth. You can have, you know, the copy of this slide that later on you can look into it. There are online resources for it as well that you can do it on your own time, because the time is quite short today. But this question is what a lot of, I think, individuals find trouble for. So we kind of try to give it a bit of a structure. And that structure is, you know, one that many Isaacers would know about, right? The SDG 17, because, you know, it helps us give the way of structuring to say, hey, you know, I'm really passionate, for example, that people get quality education. So then you start to think about, okay, let me see how I can plan my next steps to support, you know, the area of quality education. Or maybe it's in the area of, you know, climate change or energy, right? So this is one of the structures that you can use. There are many others to answer the question of what impact we want to create from the previous Ikigai question. Yeah. So the clarity part, and that's where this, you know, it's good to do a bit of introspection, retrospection, is that, you know, there are always options, and some of the options we may not know about until we speak to people of the various, you know, way forward. Again, the answer does not need to be perfect, but it's something that we can explore along the way with kind of a certain structure that we put ourselves to move forward towards that goal. So some of us wants to find a different change in job here, or an internship for those who are still at the start, or we want to become entrepreneurs. That's quite a big trend these days, right? Do we want to go for our next Isaac adventure, take another Isaac leadership role somewhere down the stage? Do we want to create a meaningful impact as a general goal? So try to write down and note all these questions so that we can then build that case on it. So now we have to clarify, right? So the next C, clarify, create, connect. So create is a part that we have a certain clarity, does not need to be perfect again. Then what do we do to package and make it work? Because in the end, to get to the next stage, we need the support of someone else. We need someone to give us a job, or we need to be recruited into a job. We need, if we want to become an entrepreneur, we need people to buy our products, we need to build a team. So there are many things that we need to get there to prepare before we reach that stage to move forward. And this is something that I love structures, right? Maybe it's because of the structured way of living here in Singapore as well. That if you are running a business or a business owner, you would have heard about the business canvas, right? Especially the lean business canvases. And there is an organization that flipped this kind of target focuses on the area of personal branding and kind of use it as a structure of what we can do to build and create the next step in terms of brand and also the plan moving forward. So usually you start here in the sense of where do you want to go to, because you already have the answer in the clarity part. And then you move into, some of the questions you ask and answer in the Ikigai part of the process, right? So who are we? What are some of the unique selling value that we can bring targeted to the next step that we want to achieve based on the results? What kind of key investments do we need? What kind of skills offering can we provide? And why are we, better than the rest and we should be hired for this role? Right, so this is a format we can use whether for virtual interviews or for face-to-face interviews or hybrid, and there are some differences as you look at the different formats. So I put some example. Obviously, these examples can work for some individuals, some not. I won't jump into full details. But for example, if we are someone who's looking and want to be a project coordinator in green sustainable projects, looking into circularity, right? Is there someone here who's looking into climate change and sustainability or green energy projects here? I don't see a chat answer, so may or may not. Oh, there's a big yes. Genia, right? Evgenia. So we can have so this could be something interesting for you to leverage and work it the way that makes sense for you. The point of using this when you help to strategize and apply in your application and interview process, it helps you build that brand, because first you need to look at who are you going to reach out to, who are your stakeholders, right? Who needs to know about you and this to support you in this process? Recruiters, head of, in this case maybe sales, or head of the sustainability project team, definitely HR, because they're always part of the process most of the case. Even how we can leverage the Isaac Alumni network in the process that can support. And then you work your way through to say, okay, if they have a role or they are in the area of sustainability, then what makes us unique? And all the key points that makes this work, because I have a deep understanding of, or someone here has a deep understanding of the youth mindset from Isaac, worked on international different groups. And, I love to challenge new boundaries. People who knows me knows that I never give up, but then put in examples. For instance, I led a sustainability project within Isaac for 30 countries, for example. So things like that. it's a good way to use as a strategy board to plan before you jump into any interview or even application process, because many individuals said they apply for 100, 150 positions, right? But if you don't strategize and have a bit of, let's say, the first priority ranking in terms of where you want to apply and interview for, that process takes a lot of energy. And it can be also sometimes depressing if you don't get early successes. I think most of us won't get quick successes because of the experiences we gain from this very valuable organization. But then, time is super valuable. So be very strategic in the process as well. And then find out what type of investments do you need? Do you need to find a sponsor, leverage the alumni network here that we have? Do we need to take an additional course when it comes to data analytics, for example, specific to the sustainability area? Do we need to continue volunteering? And what kind of research and preparation do we need to do? So if, let's say, we talk to a company that is looking into sustainability and wants to prepare for the role, talking to the head of this project, then, what does this person look into? What are some of the issues the person is trying to solve? Because it's a two-way street and we are hired to solve a problem, right? That's why, we have teams that happen. And I put here crystal notes. We discussed within the panel as well in the prep call. I think Wolfgang has used it as well, but basically it's a tool that uses AI in the sense of taking all the information that we have from social media and then puts it into the disk platform, the disk personality, or you call it psychological, psychometrics process. And then they even give, the understanding of the person that you're working with, what kind of conversations the person don't like, how do you strategize a winning discussion with this person. It's not fully accurate because they take whatever data we put, and sometimes we don't put a lot of data. But the other point is we should also be a bit careful of what data do we put there, because it leads to profiling that can be biased as well. So this is, in the end, a good prep tool to see what others sees about us, but also how we prepare discussions with others. So I just thought to put that in because it's quite interesting, and they're growing and developing the tool more and more. So it will become more and more valuable with more data that is available publicly. Okay, so take a look at this. If you have questions after this, we can always discuss and connect as well. But these are some of the examples that people have used, and they know the target audience very well. I don't know if they all did their personal branding canvas, but these are some of the things that they try to already put forward, so that the brand already kind of is tailored to the role that they want to look into. So this is on Zing, which is a LinkedIn for Germany, as we call it. And this lady not only creatively writes that she's looking for a role, she even did an image like as if she's a job ad, selling a skill set. Different creative ways to get ourselves noticed. And also this lady here, she's in the US, and she when she interviewed or tried to get a new role, basically she did something that she was irrationally passionate about, and she plays the piano very well. So she did and recorded the whole interview into a song, saying that I'm looking for a role, this is what I'm good at. And then she put it online, it went viral, and then she got a job at one of the companies she's dreaming of, which is Zoom, right? So she's actually currently working with Zoom. I mean, I'm not saying that all of us should record a video and play musical instruments, but I think in this whole world of digitization, it starts to get very crowded, even though we might streamline it into an area that we are, probably the top 1% for, or that we have a lot of expertise with. There is still a lot of competition, and how do we get ourselves out there? Bogdan will talk more about it as well, so I will not go so much in depth into this. And then the connect part, this is very quick. I think, Chris, we have probably a couple of minutes left, but I'm already at the end. Is really the concept of do not forget that application and interview strategy requires us to build also our own support group, right? Just like how companies prosper and strive with, you know, advisory boards, director boards, because they get them different perspectives and viewpoint. We need to also do it for our own careers. So what if we have one for ourselves? We probably already have them. But what if we have them in this room, in this virtual room of 21 people by now? Because then you're using a collective intelligence to support us in part of this process, right? So think about it, and as we go into the breakout later, make connections, stay in touch, because we are potential personal board of directors for our careers, not only now, but in the next years to come, right? As we move along in the next steps. So key takeaways as a final, let's say, summary after we hear about the 3 C's is, you know, don't be afraid to be our authentic self. You know, make sure that we communicate authentically, consistently, also creatively, right? In a virtual setting, you know, people look out for what is different, right? So why should I pick someone over the other person? And the passion part of the process and what does this person care about is an important part of the recruitment process for junior or senior roles. So board of directors and companies today are asking senior individuals before they get selected into the C-levels of what do you stand for, right? So this is an important question that some people find it hard to answer, but the earlier we think about this question, the better it is. The next part of the do is, you know, practice, you know, with mock trials, with our personal board of directors, with technology. Make sure that you know the technology at the back of your hand, the lightings, the outfit. Make sure you're well prepared and not dressed in an outfit that distracts. The other point I just wanted to add, because of the virtual point, is the background should, as much as possible, especially for video interviews, be plain. So my background is not, I would definitely not use this if I were interviewing, because some algorithms when they capture the image, it does not capture very well. And if you have something that is distracting, then it distracts the person looking into the video. Yeah. So some of the things you will find online, various lists of how to get prepared. And also worst case scenarios, right? Technology fails even after 2 trials sometimes. But don't be afraid. And some of you might have seen this comic before, you know, if the house is burning around you as you do your interview or as you prepare, don't worry. Everyone has issues when it comes to getting prepared, and even after trials, people understand, right? If your dog comes in, the cat comes in, if the kids come in. I think the most important thing is think about how you would react, because the way we react is more important than, you know, the problem of the house burning down, right? So take a breather as well when you go into the process, and, you know, take care of ourselves as well, not to get the stress level high. Know your audience, because in the end, we are also choosing the company. So I'm the last slide, Chris, so you don't need to kick me out. This is one of my favorite. I mean, everyone has favorite quotes, right? So in the end, the next part of this process is, you know, it's not who is going to allow me and give me permission. If I know what impact I want to create, where do I want to reach in terms of my career, you know, no one can stop us. So let's just keep moving forward together and leverage this very valuable community internationally. That's it.